Right, a quick situation report. The wrecker is on the way through Jeep Roadside Assistance as a branch inopportunely got up into, you can't see anything there, but got inopportunely up under the undercarriage. Finally got around to hooking Sparky up to the trailer, which, as I'd hoped, was no big deal. We're obviously not overlanding. Like I always say, I use my M416 trailer for everything. So Kathy and I are going to go out and get a bunch of landscape rock that I have to throw in the trailer. But there's lots of little things with stuff like this, like would the pintle hitch comfortably clear the spare tire? Yes. Are the chains long enough? I didn't cross them because it was a little bit tight, but yes, the chains will reach the factory hooks, and yes, the factory 7-pin is what I expected it to be, so the lights all worked. So, no dramas yet, and probably here in a couple of weeks, Sparky's going to pull all the overlanding gear up to the UP. I did buy a couple of cheap bars that actually just go to the gutter rails, because I don't need to mount anything heavy, just that Thule box. Then I throw sleeping bags, a couple of chainsaws, and some boots in that Thule box. So I just needed a couple of decent crossover rails that I could use to mount the Thule. But so far so good. So again, on the way home I'll have a little bit of weight. I do have the jerry cans full on the nose of the trailer, so it's not without weight. But here in town I'll be all electric mode, so I expect with the torque I won't even feel the trailer. The real test, other than this is just functionality, the real test is when I have the full weight and wind resistance of the overlanding gear in there, and when Sparky runs out of battery and becomes a heavier than usual 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder Jeep. We'll see how things go then. That's a couple weeks away. Alright, so just messing around with the GoPro here. What I'm about to do this evening is install a winch on Sparky, my wife's Wrangler 4xe. So I'll set up the tripod. Hopefully I can get this all done this evening. It's already probably 7 p.m. and I'm just getting started, but we'll see how much I can get done. I'm just going to leave that on this little tripod there to collect some footage. I'm going to unbox the very unremarkable winch. Now, I'm using a worn winch plate. I reviewed probably 3 or 4 videos, confirmed that on a Wrangler 4xe JL, the install is the same. Now, if you do have a Rubicon, there's a clearance provision for the sway bar disconnect that I did verify that this winch plate will have. Other than that, the winch draws its power from the car battery the same way it would on a non-plug-in hybrid JL. If you have the Echo Diesel, this or that, if you look at the videos, what varies is the placement of different items under the hood and how you're going to route the power cabling. But in terms of, is it different because it's a plug-in hybrid? No. From everything I've read and studied so far, the drivetrain electrical system is separate from the battery that starts the car. So in that sense, as we add accessories, it's just like any other JL. Now the other thing that's worth mentioning, so this is my H3 Hummer here beside Sparky. It has a receiver mounted winch. I decided not to go that route with the Wrangler, at least for now. So I just bought a conventional winch plate, give it a conventional winch bumper. I'm kind of rushing the install because tomorrow's Thursday, first thing Friday morning, I want to head out to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to our land up there. Kathy and I agreed I would take Sparky this time, and I'd rather have the winch on Sparky for the trip. I doubt I'll need a winch recovery, but I'd rather not rely on a hand winch. And none of the cabling's run, so I can't use the receiver winch in the back on Sparky, nor do I have a front receiver mount. So I'm going to try and get the winch installed. So again, this is an X-Bull. This is like your Harbor Freight Badlands. People will make fun of it. I warned my wife. The guys in the Jeep Club will tell you you're not cool if you try to join because you'll have an X-Bull winch. But to my knowledge, this is virtually identical to the Warren VR series, which are also Chinese sourced. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that I could buy Warn stickers and it would be indistinguishable from some of the Warn VR series winches. So, all that said, this is the X-Bull 13,500 pound winch purchased on Amazon. Alright, just a little more fiddling around. I cut off the zip tie there. And then just make sure I get this in the right orientation. Alright, well, that was quite an ordeal. It's probably about 1 a.m. and I got to work tomorrow, so that's not good. But Sparky is ready for his trip. Alright, I'm going to take Sparky for a little spin, make sure everything is hunky-dory. And at least now for this next trip, Sparky has a winch. Oh, and a roof rack. Alright, this is our first overlanding trip in which Sparky, the Wrangler Rubicon 4xe, is going to pull the overlanding trailer. And one disadvantage of going by myself, other than I'd rather have my wife drive her truck and enjoy her company, is that I have no one but myself to blame for pulling out so late. It's going to be about 8:45 here when I hit the road. Just kind of hoping to leave a little earlier than that. But at least this way I'm less likely to forget things. I'm going to try and get an estimate of the gas mileage pulling the trailer on this trip as well. Cruising along here in Sparky. I've got the trip computer set. So for reference, the Hummer gets, I'm going to say, I'll have to pull it up in the log, I'm going to say 11-ish pulling this trailer. Now there's a lot of wind noise in a Wrangler, so I can't tell if there is much wind. It certainly doesn't affect the performance of the truck. I don't think there is much of one. I see some trees kind of wiggling a little bit, but not severely. So that's the kind of the first data point of the 4xe pulling the trailer. You know, very comfortable pulling the trailer in electric mode or in hybrid mode. But 13 miles per gallon, you know, it's not terrible. So one way to look at it is the 4xe gets about the same mileage as the Hummer when the Hummer is not pulling the trailer. Slight exaggeration. The Hummer gets between 13 and 14. Right now it dipped below 13, so my guess is that Sparky here is going to get 12-ish by the time we're done. But we'll see. Sometimes it's hard to tell with these GoPros when it is and isn't recording. I was pretty sure I just hit stop and it's just starting, I think. Anyway, so again, range 254 miles here in Sparky is what it's saying, but at 12.5 miles per gallon and 17.2 gallons in the tank, the actual range is probably closer to 200, which is consistent with how often I've had to stop. So for what it's worth, is a 4xe pulling a trailer going to be a great overlanding setup? No. Just the range isn't there. But again, if you carry gas, it's not that big a deal. Well, if memory serves, Sparky has made this trip before, but not with the Thule on top and not with the trailer. I don't expect any drama, although poor Kathy can't hear the scrape of the low branches on her beautiful new 4xe Wrangler. It's definitely getting some off-road pinstripes, but it's all good. And the fall colors, I grabbed just a little bit of footage, kind of pointing out the window on the way up. Now this area of our woods has not so many deciduous trees, but still in the areas that do, the colors are just starting to pop and it is quite beautiful. I'm not even bothering to do the hill descent feature, which is very cool, but probably don't need it. So I come down here, I'm going to walk the area and just try to decide, do I want to camp where I camped last time, and do I want to go up a little more on the hill? The beauty is I have lots and lots of choices. through the lay of the land. And this little road I'm on is Sandy's road. It was awesome that she gave us permission to use it. I just had to come out with a chainsaw and do a bit of clearing. It's way easier to access the property from her road than it is from the trail I made through the woods, mostly because of one really steep hill. I've never taken Sparky here down that hill with the trailer attached. When I take the Hummer, the spare tire on the Hummer and the spare tire on the trailer like either almost touch or do just touch a little bit. So I don't want to find out the hard way that Sparky would lack clearance. So I may or may not ever bother to do that. But yeah, it's really handy to come into the land from this angle. Although I can always access it the other way if I need to. And then that opens up multiple suitable camping spots. So we'll just have to see as I get in here. When I get tractor Smurf out here too, I may, like this hole I'm about to drive into, I may try and fill some of this in. But certainly, like when I'm in the Hummer, I usually pop through here quite a bit faster. The other thing is some of these little areas here, the trees are really close together, and while it might shock people, a Wrangler Unlimited is wider and longer than a Hummer H3. So my little truck will fit in places where this truck might struggle. You can kind of hear that Luna Ring and Pinto hitch banging together back there as I go over the rough terrain. I'll be curious tonight too, a few times on the trail cam, which is probably now photographing me at this moment, I've seen a bobcat walk through here at night, usually in the wee hours of the morning, which is very interesting. Definitely an interesting critter to have walk through your property. Let's see if I'm going to go to the inclinometer here. I'm just curious how far off camber I am. I always forget to look at that on my own. In the Hummer, I just have little analog stick-on, you know, little ball and oil inclinometer gauges, but hey, I'm in the Rubicon. Let's use the built-in tech here. So one thing that always bugs me is how long it takes the touch screen to go to the off-road pages. Not sure if it's sending a satellite signal to Stellantis there. Let's see, here we go. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Yeah, about 16-degree roll there. That's more than I would have guessed. All right, now I guess, I should have thought of that. By continuing to drive this way, I'm kind of committing myself where I'm going to drop the trailer, but it's not that big a deal. It'd just be very challenging to try to back the trailer up this trail. On the other hand, I can just, I've done it before. I can drive all the way through the forest and back out onto the road if I need to. But I think, in reality, the only places I'm likely to camp are either the same spot I did last time, which is right up here, or just about 20 feet up the trail. Now the other thing, we could not find Kathy's tripod when we unpacked. So that's another thing I need to do, is just kind of poke around here and see if we actually left anything behind. Never got worse than 16 that I noticed there. It felt worse, but I think it was just getting back to 16. And I do have the front sway bar disconnected, but I do not have either axle locked. Alright, I'm going to pull up here and get out and walk around. This is kind of where I set up the trailer last time. And then I will decide, do I set it up in the same place, or do I pull it up here onto this rise a little bit? Alrighty then. Let's see what there is to see. Well, Kathy made it here this morning. So here's the rescue party, the old 2008 Hummer H3, and you can still see the puddle of transmission fluid underneath Sparky. I'll take the video. I've been researching undercarriage protection this morning. Hopefully no, can't think of the proper engineering term, but consequential damage. But somewhere in there is where the leak got torn by a well-placed stick. Like I say, in Soft Roading the West, the YouTuber tells a story, I think his name's Donald, where he's out with a Wrangler 4xe. Same thing happened to that guy. Nothing hardcore, but a well-placed stick tore out a transmission line in some way. Transmission fluid leaked and he had to be basically towed out of the forest. Fortunately, when mine was no longer operable, I was right at a driveway where the tow was easy.